This is the EGR valve of a Toyota Hilux, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to remove it for inspection and cleaning. There are some tricks to reinstalling it that will save you hassle and time, so be sure to watch to the end. Firstly, remove the 10mm nuts and bolts that fix this black rocket cover to the intercooler. Then simply lift off the rocket cover. Keep your 10mm socket and loosen these 3 hose clamps. Unclip these 5 sensors. I'll show a close-up of these. Pull off all these vacuum lines and remove this manifold absolute pressure filter from its bracket. Remove these 4 bolts that secure the intercooler using a 12mm socket. Remove the intercooler by lightly twisting the right-hand side of it back towards you and then place it out of the way. Unclip this throttle position sensor. Remove these 3 bolts using a 12mm socket. Remove the bracket. Now to remove the throttle body, 2 nuts and 2 bolts using a 12mm socket. Firmly pull and remove the throttle body. Remove these 3 bolts using a 12mm socket. Then remove the bracket. Remove these 2 bolts using a 12mm socket. Remove these 3 bolts using a 12mm socket. These 2 bolts can be tricky for your first time. Using a 10mm socket, loosen them and do the rest by hand. Now you can remove the EGR and associated attachments. These nuts are usually always very tight. Use a breaker bar with a 12mm socket to remove them. There's many methods of cleaning. In this video, we scraped off thick buildup, then used an ultrasonic cleaner, for which there is a link in the description. Now tricks to the sticking it back in the engine. Firstly, don't forget the gasket, then the 90-degree pipe. Fit the 3 bolts and loosely tighten. Some movement is needed for the next part. Now with the remaining parts, fit them together like so. Be sure to remember gaskets between each join and on the bottom of the EGR. Then install into the engine. Get the 2 10mm bolts for the bottom of the EGR and install. If the 90-degree pipe is not left loosened, it can make it harder to line these up. Tighten the 10mm bolts up tightly with U-hands, then the final touches with the socket. Fix the 3 12mm nuts on the back here. Use a ratchet spanner to tighten securely. Secure the 3 bolts that were left loosened on the 90-degree pipe. Fit this bracket with its 3 corresponding 12mm bolts. Don't forget the bracket for the MAP filter goes with the top bolt. Now refit all vacuum lines and sensors. Fix these 2 bolts back on using a 12mm socket. Fit this bracket along with its 3 12mm bolts. Install throttle body with its 2 nuts and 2 bolts using a 12mm socket, and don't forget the gasket. From here on, you can reinstall the intercooler, rocket cover, remaining sensors and vacuum lines, then start the vehicle up ready for the test drive.